And I think really sticking with some of the things that have been said here tonight about, organizations sticking together and not fighting with each other for the same piece of pie, and people coming together to really start to address a lot of the issues. I know Steve Gagnon from DHHIG, he's the current president. He has been so helpful in getting feds acknowledged, as well as working together to get some of our issues, our common issues raised, OPM, on the Hill, everything else. So he's here tonight to talk to you guys a little bit. And Steve, if you want to come on up and let him know all the great things you do. Good.
So it seems that it's 8 o'clock right now, so just trying to keep it short and sweet. I'm the current president for DHHI, or the G, for the 2013 year. So, and this is for the deaf and hard of hearing people working in government. So Feds was set up last year, and when that was set up, I kind of looked at them and I was like, well, what are they going to do? So they started up an organization and we had a chance to work together. So deaf people, we will always have communication challenges, and the big problem with that is that we have no voice, and we want to have support out there, but we have the same issues. We want to make sure that our voice is within those issues too. Accommodation and to provide different accommodations and different access to different issues that we are having right now. So right now we have a partnership with Partners in Crimes with Feds, and we want to thank Jason for all these opportunities and hope to continue working together in the near future.
Yeah. And thank you, Steve. Actually, Steve and I had a call this morning with OPM, their Office of Diversity and Inclusion, talking to them about our concerns around sequestration and making sure that a lot of the people who have been hired under Schedule A don't get, basically let go because people are trying to find ways to save money, and also that people aren't cutting their budgets when it comes to accommodations. Also recently, like I said, we've sent some people's personal stories in a joint letter to the Hill saying, people aren't getting the accommodations that they need. Here's some of their personal stories, and we're going to be following up with them really soon. That letter just went out, I think, last week, maybe the week before. So we're going to be following up with them. Of course, this year, we're going to be trying to get to the Hill. We're not going to be trying to, we're going to. What we're going to be trying to do is get some folks to go with us to meet with some of these senators face to face and share their personal stories, because it's a hell of a lot harder to ignore someone's face than it is a piece of paper. So if any of you are interested in that, please let me know, because we are going to be setting up appointments and meetings with some of these folks when they get back, and we're going to get heard. Next up, of course, we have Howard Rosenblum. Howard and I had a great discussion at the winter, the DHHIG Winter Conference 2012. And one of the things we talked about is the severe need for interpreting services, and really to get OPM to come to terms with the fact that we do need some job descriptions, some really high quality job descriptions for what interpreters are. And we also need really highly detailed job descriptions for what workplace assistant services are. Those two seem to be some of the most confusing accommodations for a lot of HR offices, and they seem to be the hardest things for people to get. So those are some of the things that we talked about, and I know that are on our plate for this year. But I'll turn it over to Howard to talk a little bit about NAD and everything they're doing. And I appreciate him hanging out late. I did tell him there would be cake.
Hello everyone, I want to thank you all for being here, and I want to thank Jason for letting me talk, and I'll try to keep it short and sweet. So he's right. I currently work for NAD, National Association for the Deaf, and we work closely with DHHIG and feds, and working on accommodations together and making sure that we're all doing the best practices. I'm a lawyer by training. So now have about 20 years, 19 to 20 years of experience. And it's just suing people. Because I love to sue people. Very litigious I am. So there's a lot of different stipulations that we have to overcome. And I'm sure you all agree on that. I'm not a federal employee, but I have met a lot of people in the field. And I've heard a lot of complaints, and yes, I have, sued them for that. For not providing equal opportunities for advancement. When we get accommodations, they're shit. And we're trying to monitor that and make sure that everyone sees the big picture. And the problem within the federal government is that each agency makes up their own regulations. We need to have one standardized regulations for everyone. And so we can all know what is expected from the federal government. So I'm monitoring that now for deaf and hard of hearing people and within the interpreting field itself. So and the maze that is each situation, and getting an interpreter and making sure the interpreter is skilled. Maybe they're lousy, make sure that they're qualified interpreters. Whether we should have staff interpreters or contract interpreters. So all that, and make sure that we set that up for tomorrow. The problem is eligibility. When the person applies for a job for the agency, for any federal government agency, any job in general in the federal government, private or federal sectors of the government, the hiring person itself will look at the deaf person and automatically think, if I hire this person, I will have to hire an interpreter. And that becomes a lack of motivation because of economic reasons.
And it's not really an economical motivation as well. So how do we do that? We need to centralize. And we need to centralize that to the federal and have special funds for that person. And within each department and division. So really then that's not just for deaf people, it's for all our employees with disabilities and all their accommodations they need. And they need to be considered equally in the hiring process. So that's part of what NAD is doing right now. And we're working together closely with feds. And we're really making sure to centralize those funds for the federal government because they have a right through OPM. That everyone who applies for a job will be equally considered. And that's just the merit of our abilities and our skills. Are we qualified for this job? And cost for accommodation shouldn't be considered. That cost for accommodation should be removed from their considerations while hiring. So I hope that we're going to work on that and improve the system right now. So I'm just going to give you a taste of what we've done so far. I'm the one who sued Netflix to make sure that the web is accessible.
Thank you.
And now we need to sue the federal government. So thank you. Yeah,
I have to, having a 5-month-old 5-month-old at home, I have to take Howard pursuing Netflix because if I had to leave the TV with voice on while the baby's sleeping, I would never get to watch TV. But he does raise a good point. You know, I was actually out speaking somewhere for National Disability Employment Awareness Month, and one of the head guys at an agency stood up and said, well, I can't consider hiring someone who's deaf because the cost of the interpreting is just ridiculous. And he got a little miffed at me when I told him that people who had been elected by the United States population decided that, and that it was way below his pay grade to be making those decisions. I guess he didn't expect that, but I mean, given the presentation I was giving, I was surprised he didn't. So, shame on him for being stupid. So what I like to do is